Jeez, don't get that thing out of here. This is not Mac user space.
You saw that? Whoops. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I'm only kidding.
No, it's fine. I'm telling you, we're going to end up with Mac user space one of these days anyway. So, I mean, gotta have one.
I guess if I had to transition to something, that might be the way to go.
Yeah. Because Windows 11 is now going to force the online login.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening for Windows Pro now.
Which, for my work stuff, is fine because I'm logged in online anyway, right?
Yeah.
But for my home stuff, no thanks.
Yeah, well.
Which is why I don't have it at home.
Well.
I don't have it at home.
And that's why you just uninstall Windows 11, use the same key, and then just reinstall Windows 10 and ride that into the sunset of 2025.
Which is a ways out, so I mean, you got a little time.
Yeah, so I mean, it's 3 years. You're good. It's a while.
Or you could just install Linux and be done with it. Coming up on this episode of Linux User Space, Leo stores it away. We feedback safely. Tips for your Slackware. All it takes is 15 minutes, and we have something awesome for you. Our app is built on clouds. Hello and welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Dan.
And I'm Leo.
We've got a little way back, I guess, if you will. You were reading our email, and well, you read it, I guess, back in October.
Yeah. So this was back in October of last year. We got an email from John G. that basically said he'd gotten a new drive and he was planning on, or that he used it. Really enjoyed it, planned on recommending it to everybody, and that kind of snuck its way into the email to us. And, well, wouldn't you know it, as I'm looking around the internet to buy a drive, I'm looking at the Samsung QVO, because this is this is going to be for storage. This is not boot drive or system drive, or, even in that case, I don't even really know that you need crazy fast stuff, because
I just want it to be not terribly slow, too.
Right. So anyway, it's a storage drive. I'm using it to replace a 500 gigabyte Western Digital Black. And This is a spinning drive.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a good drive, but spinning, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but this drive is 10 years old.
Oh, geez.
It is old and hasn't skipped a beat.
That's
the only
good.
thing, the only complaint I would have about it is that you can hear it spin up, and I'm just not used to that anymore. So 500 gigs, it's getting kind of small, kind of cramped. I've got about 50 gigs left on it. Some of it's junk, so I end up sorting it out and everything. But I decided to buy a 1 terabyte drive SSD of some kind. And so, like I said, looking at the Samsung QVO 1 terabyte, which is about $100. I was looking at the Crucial MX 500, I think is the model number of that. 1 terabyte, which is about on par to the QVO. And I remembered, wait a minute. I remember this one time somebody told me about this drive that was really, really good, and he was going to recommend it. Now, John, I hope this has not changed in the past 4-ish, 5-ish months. But because I was in the market, I decided, well, I might as well try it. And lo and behold, it was like $79.
That's not bad.
Which gave me pause, right? No drive can be good. 1 terabyte at $79. But I took a chance. The ratings were good, the reviews were good, and the thing that pushed me over, and I think we talked about this in the episode where we talked about that feedback. SK Hynix, they've been around for like 40 years.
Really?
These people have been making your memory chips the whole time.
Okay.
So if you pull out some memory out of an old desktop that you bought at Goodwill or some secondhand shop, you pull it out, odds are you're going to have a RAM stick, and on the individual black chips itself, it's going to have one of two names. Micron?
Yep. Yeah, Micron I know. That's very popular.
Right. Or SK Hynix. That's the other name that shows up on those sticks of RAM.
Nice.
So it's not like these guys are just, popping up out of nowhere and saying, hey guys, we make good discs. They've been around. These people have done memory for decades.
Which makes total sense when you start talking SSD or NVMe because they know memory.
Exactly. And that gives me a lot of confidence in their DRAM cache. So I said, the ratings look good. Got a recommendation from John. And then here's the other thing that I saw. The 600 terabytes written endurance.
That's a lot. That's a lot of writing.
There is no other consumer available drive that will give you that type of endurance. And I'm using this as a storage disk, a scratch disk. This is where the videos go. I'm writing massive chunks of data all the time, every 2 weeks, really.
Right.
And then a couple of times in between. But I need that endurance. So 600 terabytes. The Samsung at 1 terabyte, I think, was 300 terabytes. Not like I would ever reach either of those numbers. Well, maybe, but we're talking double the endurance. And if that turns out to be true, I'm going to be very happy with this drive.
Yeah, no joke.
And 5-year warranty. The QVO wasn't going to give you that.
No.
The Crucial MX would. The Samsung Evo would, but not the QVO that I was looking at. So the 5-year warranty gave me additional confidence. And then 1.5 million hours mean time before failure. That's like, I think I'll be dead before that happens.
Yeah, I mean, our grandkids might notice it, but...
How cool would that be, right? Like one day I just pop this drive out of the machine and I'm like, you know what? This is going to be my time capsule. And then I drop it into a fireproof safe.
If only they lasted that long, yeah.
Well, right. And so as long as the data doesn't deteriorate or something like that, then... I hand it down and then, like my great grandkid looks at it and like, what is this? And then, SATA had been dead for 30 years, so there's no way to use it anymore. But, you'll have the disk and the data will be there technically.
Right. I think you should put it on LTO tape.
See, right? I mean, tape's still around. It's been around.
It is around. It's still very popular.
It's not going anywhere because it's so cheap.
Lasts a long time, though.
Oh, yeah, it does. So either way, I pulled the trigger, I got this 1 terabyte drive, I installed it, and scared the crap out of me. Because the first thing I did, I was on Windows. This was my mistake. But I was on Windows, and I was just going to format it exFAT so I could use it in, everywhere. And formatted it, started moving a few files over to it, and, open up File Explorer, take a look at it. Some of it was music that had cover art. Right? And Windows likes to do that thing. Well, pretty much all desktops do that thing where they show you the cover art. And like the whole listing of files went away. And slowly, like one by one, they populated back. My first thought was, oh, this drive is trash. Oh no, I'm going to have to send it back. And so I'm looking around, doing some more operations. I go back to an original, a drive I already had in the desktop that I knew was fine. And it started behaving like that too. So my panic was immediately alleviated, and I thought, oh, it's because I'm using Windows. And well,
that's a good thing to blame it on. Absolutely.
Well, after I rebooted, it behaved.
So there we go.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion Windows gave me a slight heart attack, and it's reason number 655 to not use Windows. But hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so far, I'm happy with the drive. I'm using like 300 gigs of it. It's just chugging along nicely. The SSD to SSD transfers are blazing fast.
Nice.
If you use Crystal Disk Mark on Windows, because I was on Windows, the benchmarks actually live up to what is
What they
on the
rate?
manufacturer page.
Nice.
It's like 530 or 540 read and 500 write. And I mean, for a SATA SSD, that's as fast as it goes. That's as fast as SATA
SATA
goes.
goes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it does it, and I'm very happy with it. So, John, I took a chance on it, and I think I love it. So I know it took me like 5 months to make good on I think I'm going to get one of these, but I actually got one of these, and I'm very happy with it. So thanks for the recommendation, and yeah, we'll see how this drive fares over the next 11 months once we hit a year.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's really great. Thanks, John, for, belated thanks, I guess, for your recommendation. And Leo finally pulled the trigger on that.
Yeah, I'm glad I did.
All right, next we got a feedback item. This is from Hackerdefo. He says, hey there, Leo and Dan. Episode 216 was interesting as always. Really enjoyable and informative. Kudos.
Hold, I wanna pause for just a sec.
Sure.
So it turns out we actually covered this email.
We did.
Last
I'm practiced
episode.
up. I'm practiced up.
Yes, but for time, and by the way, this is where the name of the episode came from, XXLMX, the episode 17. It was called that because when we looked at the length of the show, when we included the email talking about this feedback and everything, it was massive. The whole show was going to be like 2-something hours long, and well, we couldn't have that, so we had to find some things to cut. So that, as well as quite a few other things, got cut out of the show. But anyway, I just wanted to segue for a minute to say we never really forget about any of the feedback.
We don't mean to.
Yeah, sometimes we just can't cover it in a particular show. So anyway, continue on, Dan.
Honestly, that's why we do these shows in between, is to mostly cover the feedback that we don't have time to cover when we do a distro, because when we do a distro, it really consumes most of our time. So I think the next one will be no exception to that, honestly.
Nope.
Anyway, he says, a GNU Linux is inherently safer than other operating systems, unless and until the user tries too many weird things. Well, yep. Chances of infection via malware and virus are minimal. I'd advise a few things in general that will make it more secure in theory. Use some browser extensions and uBlock Origin, Privacy Badger, Decentralize. Those are all excellent. uBlock Origin is probably one of the best, I would say.
We recommended this. Maybe it was the last topic episode, so maybe in 16, where we were talking about just how to stay safe on the internet in general.
Yeah.
And I know I brought up uBlock Origin because it is the absolute. I think if there's nothing else that you do, uBlock Origin is probably going to be the one-stop shop for. It's about as safe as you can get in one add-on. It's going to help.
It's a pretty good one. The other one I use or have used in the past is not necessarily a blocking thing, but it does give you a rating on the page, so at least you have an idea there.
Like a safety rating or something.
Yeah, like the DuckDuckGo extension. It'll give you a grade based on how many trackers and things like that are on the page and whatnot.
Oh, so I was using the DuckDuckGo browser. That's what that letter in the URL is.
Yep, up there at the top.
I use this on iOS, and right to the left of the URL, where normally you would see like a lock or a shield or something like that, they have a grade, and that grade directly corresponds with how dirty the website is.
How great your website is, yeah.
Yeah, you got like 700 trackers on there, buddy. You're getting an F.
Yeah,
so.
Or at least a D anyway. So that's pretty good and handy too, even just to let you know. So those are all great. The browser extensions. The other one we talked about was Glory. Was that it?
Oh yeah. So was Glow the browser?
Yeah, one of them was the browser, one of them was an extension. Anyway, that was really good too. It also did some blocking stuff, but somebody said, and I don't know how true it is, some of that phone home stuff kind of had some telemetry associated with it. So I'm not sure about that, but definitely uBlock Origin is a good one to keep things at bay.
Glow is the search engine, all by Ghostery, by the way. We recommended Ghostery before.
That's the one.
So Ghostery is the browser extension. Dawn is the web browser. Glow is the private engine search.
Right.
Much akin to DuckDuckGo. Yeah.
Yep. That's it. Thanks, Leo.
Uh-huh. And decentralized, to derail even more.
Sure.
I didn't know what this add-on was, so I had to look it up, and this is actually kind of right up my alley, because the web, I was going to say for better or for worse, but the web for worse.
Worse. Definitely for worse.
Is becoming the antithesis of the web. It's being consolidated down to CDNs, to Cloudflare, and any other company that says, "Oh, we'll mirror your data all over the world to make your searches and everything else go really, 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 really fast." Well, that's great and all, but that kind of defeats the purpose of having a decentralized web.
Yeah.
So, decentralize is basically just blacklisting all of these CDNs and going directly to the website, and that allows you to avoid using CDN. So this is more of a philosophical stance, I think, but generally, though, I mean, the web was always meant to be decentralized. The web was, I don't think anybody envisioned when the web was just getting its start that, everybody was going to be using Cloudflare to get to every website like ever.
Well, I guess originally the web was connect on demand sort of thing too. So that's even more decentralized, right? I mean, I mean, you connect to your outskirts, if you will, on demand. So yeah, very decentralized. Cool. Well, that's a good one. I didn't know about that, and that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes those CDNs can throw wrenches into the works. So,
well, just wait till we talk about DNS in a minute, and I'll tell you about some wrenches.
So here's the next thing that he recommends is use Cloudflare or other DNS services. And he gives a link for the Cloudflare families, link. And that basically will block malware and, known bad sites.
So I did have a look in this one, and it turns out 1111, the main Cloudflare DNS, doesn't do any kind of blocking of any kind. But if you want the blocking malware and you want to go with Cloudflare, it's 1112 and 1002, as opposed to being, instead of 2, it's 1.
Right.
But yeah, so if you want the malware blocking, you got to go with number 2.
The other thing he recommends is use DNS over HTTPS. Use that in your browser. So that's a browser approach.
And Firefox was the first browser to have this baked in.
It was.
And I did go and look on everything but Chrome and Chromium. There is a way. So in Firefox, it's under general. So I was looking under privacy and security, and I think it was Eris that was like, no, it's under general. No. I'm like, why are you putting it there? Brave, it's under privacy. Edge, it's under privacy. But curiously, Vivaldi doesn't have a easy setting toggle for it. You have to do that in flags. So
you have to go to the flags,
whatever flags. But it's still doable in everything. So which means it's doable in Chrome and Chromium, but I don't know if there's a toggle for it or not.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's not easy, or as easy. So yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So that's the browser approach. Or he also recommends, using a system-wide advert malware blocker. There's plenty of tools out there, but he'll plug a script of his, and I'll have a link to that. It's on his GitHub page, so that's there as well. A lot of people use Pi-hole, which is a common thing to do DNS blocking. That would be obviously a home setup, home network setup, and you could do a whole home network using that.
As far as DNS over HTTPS goes, the entire reason that you would want something like that is just simply that you don't want anybody between you and the recipient of your DNS request to be able to look at the request itself, because DNS by default is unencrypted. So that means that if someone could read the wire, your ISP, they would be able to dissect every DNS query and see which domains you're trying to resolve. Now, you're getting a little tinfoil hatty.
But they have a vested interest to do that, Leo, because let's say your ISP is also your local television. They're giving you your television too.
Oh.
And if you're streaming those things, they're probably looking at where you're going so they can give you targeted ads.
Oh.
And so even if it's not just targeted ads at you, it's targeted ads at your neighborhood, if you will, because they can keep track of trends that are going on for your whole neighborhood, not just you.
Wow, that's kind of like some kind of federated learning of cohorts or something, right?
They love those numbers, and they're going to collect them where they can, probably. So,
yeah.
Honestly, they're all into advertising, and that is where all the money is. So that's where they're going to they're gonna collectively pool all that stuff. So it's kind of gross when you think about it that way. Yes, if you can bypass all of that and just send encrypted traffic onto your DNS lookups, then your ISP doesn't see that.
Good point.
It's also probably good if you're out and about, even if you're on a VPN, but you're connected to someone else's network. Probably not a bad thing to be able to, encrypt as much as you can in case something does get past the goalie.
Right.
So those are just my recommendations. And that's my ultra tin foil hat right there.
Well, I mean, you made a good point. I don't know how tinfoil hatty it is anymore because, I mean,
it's out there.
If it's true, it's true. Yeah.
So I do use DNS over TLS here at my router level. So everything that leaves here goes out and gets encrypted.
Nice.
The other one that is popular is AdGuard. AdGuard is pretty good and easy to set up. I think
you can just snap install that, can't you?
You can, and I think that's actually one that Eris really is in love with, and it is easy to set up once you get it running. I did some testing on it, and it's very good. I think it's an easy one to set up, and it gives you a lot of options, so you can do custom lists, if you will, in addition to the ones that you can pull down. So you can add things that are good or are bad and just put them in the list.
Yeah, the main thing for me is I need to be able to quickly go into whatever interface is available to me and white or blacklist a particular domain. I know Pi-hole for a while.
You can do it. It's a lot harder.
Right, but I think now Pi-hole has made it easier to do.
They get it a little better, but yeah.
But one thing I fell in love with in Pi-hole is the tracking statistics web page that they offer you.
AdGuard has that too.
It's so pretty. I just like watching it. I want to frame that on the wall and then just let it auto update throughout the day, and just because, again, I think y'all know this by now, I like blinky lights.
I like dashboards, so I'm right there with you.
And that's a dashboard with blinky lights, and I dig it. So that's really good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Little graphs, little pie graphs and stuff like that. Yeah, you got me. But the cool thing about that is, like, if you have any, self-hosted stuff, you can add the DNS entries for those things in your AdGuard or Pi-hole or whatever, and that helps you get to those things really easy too. So you don't have to worry about it squirting out the internet.
Yeah. The thing about that is I would have to, because I do want to do Pi-hole again, or some kind of DNS like that. But I would have to take them off my router and then put them into Pi-hole or forward to my router, and that just gets a little convoluted. But it works. It works.
So all those are great things, I think, to help increase your security and reduce your vulnerability to bad malware and things like that. So Hackerdefo goes on to talk about Apostrophe. Looks like a useful app for sure. He says, personally, I use whatever text editor at hand for Markdown, but in my opinion, the best open source Markdown has to be Zettler. and give it a go and let me know what you think of it. And he gives a link for that. And yeah, we're going to do that, I think. I don't know, unless you've done it already, Leo.
I have not actually tried it out. I mean, because when you pull back a little bit, I think all Markdown editors are very similar.
They are.
But it does look very
It did look good
nice.
from the webpage. I did look at that and poked around a little bit. Haven't had a chance to install it yet, but I will.
One of the things that I think is really important to point out about this, or at least by default, is Zettler does a mixture of Markdown and the prettification of the Markdown, right? So in most editors, you have two panes. On the left-hand side, you have the Markdown, basically the code or whatever. And in the right-hand side, you have the pretty preview of what the Markdown is actually going to look like if you were to save it in a PDF or something like that. Now, Zettler, much like Nextcloud, wink, wink,
yes,
does this prettification and Markdown, and they smash it together all in one pane. So you don't have to split pane it. It very much is, you wrap something up in like double asterisks to mean bold or something, and it bolds it for you right there. But the Markdown doesn't go away. So it is very efficient in that way. So, man, it looks nice. It does all that to say that it looks nice. It's a very good looking editor.
I agree.
It looks good.
Yeah, it's not quite what you see is what you get, but it's really close, and it gives you an idea of how things are going to shape up when it finally gets produced.
Right.
So, I do like it. I think it looks cool. I'm definitely going to try it. He says, regarding Audacity and telemetry, I think had only 10% of its users donated regularly towards the project, it would have still been an independent project. Telemetry is everywhere, even in open source projects. The way I see it is the PR department of Mewest Group did a bad job in the first place, and Mewest Group is relatively small and hence an easier target. I will totally agree with the bad PR stuff. I think we all can on that one. They botched that up a little bit. However, if they'd come out a little earlier and said, we're doing this, I think people would have been more receptive. Not everyone, but it would have been received a little better.
Well, the hardline telemetry folks would never be pleased if there was any telemetry anywhere. But I think a lot of the people that kind of took that and ran with it are mostly indifferent to the telemetry stuff.
They just wanted to know it was coming.
Yeah, and I think very much it was more a problem of the way that it came out rather than there is telemetry. There was a mix, but the bigger cries seemed to me to be the
just not knowing.
Just a not so great way that it was handled, kind of slipped in there, and then they announced it, and then it was like, whoa, yeah.
I think having a way to turn it off is really important. I can see some value in collecting some of those things, especially as a developer. Most assuredly, when it comes to bugs, I mean, knowing what people are experiencing and being able to get their machine data, or at least some of it, when they go to submit a bug is pretty helpful, I think, when you go to try to solve the problem. Because everybody's problem is somewhat unique.
Well, it's definitely unique hardware most of the time, so it very well could be something like that is causing an issue, yeah.
Right, especially when it comes to audio, right? I mean, audio is, everybody's hardware is very different there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's probably important data to collect, if you can. Next goes on to, since you mentioned Microsoft's VS Code, a couple of fun facts about it. Visual Studio Code comes with a built-in telemetry tracking thing. Visual Studio Code source is available under the MIT license, but the binaries you download from its official site are proprietary. Ditch VS Code and use VS Codium, and he gives a link for that. I do use VS Codium personally. I find the update mechanism is easy enough. It isn't quite as easy as download a deb and install it. However, it's not that much harder, right? It's pretty easy, and it does add the you do have to add the repository, and then you can install it. So it's an
Mhm.
extra step, if you will, rather than just download a deb.
Well, that was my biggest thing about VS Code was that before VS Codium was available and popular, um, that's what I did. VS Code's available for Linux. Are you kidding me? It's great, awesome. It's a really good editor, great. So I'll download the thing, download a deb, double click on the deb, and you're done. Like it's
You're
over. It's
right.
done. So that is very, very nice.
I'll agree with you. It makes it simple for that, but adding a repository and then installing it, that's not that much harder, really, honestly, because they give you the instructions. They're pretty easy.
And I would like a deb of Brave too, but I don't get that. I have to I have to add the repositories by hand. So it's not like I won't do something like that. But when the easier option is available to me, I tend to go that way with it anyway. But either way, that was actually the thing that that pushed me away from VS Codium when it did come out, was that I did download the deb, I did install the deb, but the deb is not self-updating. The deb itself doesn't add the repositories,
Right.
which I feel like would be a nice touch.
Yeah, I don't know. They don't want to touch your system, I guess, which is fair, I suppose.
I mean, to install a deb, you got to give it root powers. So, I mean,
Yeah, but they don't want to add a repository to your system. You don't want to get your
true.
heebie-jeebies
Okay.
up on that one, I guess. So,
I guess.
So, I mean, it's fair. I can understand that. And it's easy to add. And when you do, then it does self-update.
Yeah. Once you get the repository in there, it's all good to go. And I think I will likely migrate my way over. The one thing that I don't like about VS Codium, I'm just not a fan of the icon. I don't even know what it is. That's
It's
like a file tree.
It's like a tree. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know.
So it's like
I think the
Git
contrast
or
is messed
something?
up for me. I think that's the problem.
maybe.
But other than that, that's pretty nitpicky, honestly.
Well, no, it is. It has nothing to do with the software itself. But yeah.
I find it's not lacking anything that I need, and it does everything I want. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, the one thing I can't really do with those is install them Flatpak or Snap, right? Because one of the two, if not both, have trouble installing some of the plugins.
Yeah, I think when you install Flatpaks, the Flatpak version of those, sometimes the plugins do have problems. Like it, and that's probably a pathing issue because Flatpaks end up in a different location than your normal system. So,
right.
There's probably a way to symlink that and make it fixed, but I don't know. Who wants to go through all that?
I'll just copy paste a couple of repositories in that case.
Exactly. I'm right there with you. I mean, if I just had to quick edit a file, I suppose, maybe, but I can run Vim too, so.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Finally, in this email, it says, wouldn't it be nice if one of you had gone with XFCE edition of MX? And I did comment on this, and I didn't for the run that we did for the show. And the reason I didn't is because I had never done the KDE Plasma version. And I thought that was better to try something that I hadn't tried. I've used the XFCE version before, and it's very good. I mean, I liked it a lot. I know it's their flagship, and a lot of the tools, obviously existed, when XFCE was the only version they had. And so that's where things like the panel flipper tool and stuff like that, that's why they exist, is because you need that for XFCE. So I'd done that before, so that's the reason I didn't do that personally. I hadn't done the Plasma version. So yeah.
I think the desktop is not what is great about MX.
Oh, definitely. No.
So I mean, obviously, yes, I did the Plasma version of MX, but I did run XFCE in a VM to kind of get a feel for it and see what was going on with it. But I mean, I realized that, the true value of MX is in just all of the amazing tooling that they put together for you to make your life easy for the problems that you will encounter one day. And it's just a couple of clicks to fix or configure whatever weird little thing that might have happened, or whatever. Like, you want to change the background of the Grub startup or something. You could you could totally do that.
Yeah.
And that's just some of that MX tooling doing all the talking there. So,
right.
Yeah, the value of MX is in the tooling, I think.
I'll agree with that. And so, like you say, you don't like XFCE, and that could be some of the tooling that's built into XFCE. And so MX does try to solve some of those problems with different things. So, the theming and whatnot is kind of, that's some of the things they build and take care of. So,
right.
It does fix some of those issues for you. So if you are going to go XFCE, I think MX is one of the best, honestly.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Anyway, thank you for all your comments on that email. We're going to touch on another one that you sent us in a few moments.
Yeah, before we get on to that, I have a story to tell because I had followed your advice before getting your advice, but I'm glad we agree in general. I've been using Cloudflare DNS for a very, very long time, actually. Maybe 2 years or so.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
And it's been really good, but I ran into a situation where apparently Cloudflare, the only DNS that I have found so far, they just haven't cached Sean Davis's website. bluesaber.org. So if you want to see like XFCE and Ubuntu stuff, that's where it gets posted. I mean, he's one of the most prominent developers for it. So there it is, right? And I just thought, oh, maybe he just let his domain lapse or something. It never occurred to me that my DNS service was just not caching the name, that it just wasn't doing it. Weird. But anyway, Dan and I were having a conversation about DNS, and Dan, you had mentioned the DNS provider that you use.
Yeah, I use Quad 9.
Right. And so earlier we mentioned that Cloudflare does malware blocking if you use the 1112 and 1002 options, but Quad 9 does that by default.
They do it. Yep, they're 9999. Does it by default.
And they didn't have enough money to buy the other cool DNS like IP address or something. Like they could have had 99910. I mean, seriously, like why not? But anyway, it's like 142 dot something something dot. Nobody remembers it. It's absolutely impossible to do.
Yeah, they have one that is unfiltered basically, but the Quad 9 one is filtered.
Right.
So,
well, it's alternate. So they have 9999 and then they have an alternate.
Right.
And that one is just unmemorable. I don't know what it is.
I don't think it's that bad, but yeah, I just don't remember it either.
Well, see, it is that bad, Dan, because you don't know what it is. Anyway, that's not the point at all. But so I realized that for Cloudflare, and so we were talking about DNS over HTTPS. Well, Firefox makes that really easy. And so all I did was hop down, swap my DNS over HTTPS provider to Quad 9, did bluesaber.org, and it worked like immediately. What?
Yeah.
And so that's when I got to thinking, well, hang on now. Swap back over to Cloudflare, try it again.
No go.
Unresolvable.
Yep.
So it was Cloudflare. And that's weird. There's nothing wrong with bluesaber.org. You can actually use I have a website here in the show notes that you can use to look up pretty much through all the main DNS public providers if things are blocked or what. And it wasn't. It's not blocked in Cloudflare. It's just not cached. There is no answer at Cloudflare.
Right. So, it's times out.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, maybe I should move to Quad 9 and try that out for a little bit, and then I'll come on the show and talk about my experience. Well, here it is.
Hopefully it's good. Hopefully it stays good. I mean, I've had a good time. So for as long as you've been on Cloudflare, I think I've been on Quad 9.
Okay. Well, so it's half in, half out. Let me explain. So Cloudflare won't resolve bluesaber.org.
Mm-hmm.
And so you told me about Quad 9, and I'm like, ooh, malware filtering. I do kind of like that. That prevents anybody in my house that I don't have, direct say over what's happening on that device
Sure.
to, essentially be blocked from
Nice little safety net.
accidentally getting, creepy crawlies.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. So Quad 9 it is. So I hop in my router, I swap all my DNS, everything is cool. Well then, a little later on, while I'm on Quad 9, I open up Tootle. Now, if you remember, about this episode last season, we hopped on Matrix and Mastodon. And with Mastodon, I started with mass.to, and then I moved to c.im for purely vain reasons.
Vanity reasons, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I realized, so c.im is where I'm at.
Yeah,
well,
you and Joe were trying to get the shortest domain names possible.
I mean, yeah, I did. Leo at c.im. It's the smallest you can get.
It's pretty
anyway. Well, Quad 9 blocks c.im.
Well, apparently that short domain name looks sketchy. Who knew?
So I've got a couple options here, right? I can go back to Cloudflare and not get updates from Sean. I can stay on Quad 9 and no longer be able to, without jumping through a big old bunch of hoops, lose access to my Mastodon account because c.im is unresolvable. Or 3, keep
some
DNSing, like try NextDNS or try AdGuard. And I don't want to do that. I trust you, Dan. Quad 9 has been good.
Yeah.
Besides that, those two websites.
They've been protective, yeah.
I think mass.to is fine now. So I could go back to that account. But anyway, I haven't really done a whole lot with Mastodon. So my thought was, well, maybe I just jump on the biggest, craziest one, mastodon.social, and, just do that. Well, anyway, neither here nor there. And by the way, the name of that website that you can go to check DNS reputation is the way that they define it, is ipvoid.com/DNS-reputation.
Yep.
And you just type in a URL, domain name, and hit enter. And it will tell you if any of the DNS providers that do any kind of blocking block this website or not. So that's really nice. And Dan, you had in addition to that too.
Yeah, so Quad 9 has a page basically where you can check, but just the Quad 9 DNS to see if it's blocked there as well. So I'll post that in there. That's the quad9.net /result page. And that also does the same thing, but obviously only for Quad 9.
Yep. I don't know how I found ipvoid.
That's really cool. That's a cool website, and it checks, a bunch of them, right? And so that's how you found like c.im is not just blocked on Quad 9. It was a few other ones too that were looking at that. Yeah. And
so that was kind of the well, I get it if it's 1.
Right.
But when it's like 4 or 5, it reminds me of VirusTotal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if this file is deemed bad by 1 group, okay, well, it's probably fine. But if it's identified as malware by all of the groups, yeah, it's probably malware. So, I mean, once you that's that. Anyway, so I don't know. I didn't research any of this. I'm going purely by what ipvoid says and what these domain name services say. I don't know.
Well, I know
if c.im is actually malicious or not, but
somebody got something bad somewhere at some point, so they reported it.
The consensus is,
yeah, no, it's good. I think all of those things will help you stay safe and stay safe as a household. Honestly, not just your individual.
Right. And that was the point, right? I wanted something to protect people while I'm not around. Hey, is this website cool? I don't know. I'm not there. So this helps out at least a little bit, preventing people from getting to websites they shouldn't be on in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We've got some more feedback from Hackerdefo. I got another email that says, "Hey there, Leo and Dan. MX Linux review was informative and accurate.
Yes.
Enjoyed it. Good job." Well, thank you for that. I can't wait to hear the upcoming episode on Slackware.
Oh,
it will be a blast from the past for sure.
The past, like 1990 something past.
Yeah, 93. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not to give away the farm, but it's been going pretty good so far, honestly, which amazed me that I remembered as much as I did.
Yeah, Slackware is synonymous with the kitchen sink, so, you know.
Yep. A thing that you'll find handy during your run of Slackware, as of writing this email, is slackbuilds.org hasn't caught up with 15. So just in case, flap hacks and all, you want the Slack builds, here's the source. And so he gives a link for Slack builds, and I will post that in the show notes.
Nice. And by the way, for those that are following along in Slackware or not following along in Slackware at all, Slack builds is basically, and I know it's not exact, but it's basically the AUR for Slackware.
It's the package builds for Slackware, yeah.
Yep, stuff that Slackware themselves don't package and give to you. This is a way to kind of, do that end run around and get software that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise.
Much like KOS or Void,
Yes.
They all have ways to, get yourself hooked up with something that's outside the regular repositories.
Yes.
Anyway, thanks for that. We'll pass it along. Next bit of feedback was from Steve Mowest. Leo was listening to the episode Nix Null Not a Nothing, and your mention of WireGuard on a Pi caught my attention. I haven't done any the bandwidth tests that you've done with your Pis in WireGuard. That sounded interesting, and I wondered how you did that.
That was using a couple of different things. Yeah. Because I was looking for just raw bandwidth, what I tried to do was use speedtest.net. Now, for those that don't know, speedtest.net usually picks a server that's very close to you. Typically. So if you're actually looking for how fast you can go on the internet, it's not a great accurate depiction of how fast you can go, because that's very dependent on nodes in between you and there and how fast they can actually serve files up to you. So
it does sort of set your maximum, though.
Right, and that's what I was after. So speedtest.net is fantastic for really just getting some raw numbers, high and low, seeing what happens. So essentially what I did was got WireGuard on my phone, got it all set up, got all connected. I disconnected from Wi-Fi, connected solely through, I think at the time, LTE, and then connected back into my network through WireGuard and used speedtest.net. So basically what it was connecting up to my phone service provider through WireGuard into my network and then out to do the speedtest.net.
Right.
So the bottleneck there was going to be the upload speed of my own internet connection.
Right.
And that's going to be everybody's bottleneck, really.
Yeah, that's typically the thing that's the lowest for everyone, right?
Right.
Nobody has symmetric internet at home.
Yeah, well, yeah, unless you got fiber, the cool 1 gig up and down fiber, yeah.
Well, I'm not one of the cool kids, I can tell you that.
I'm not either, don't worry. But the cool thing about that is that if you're getting wildly different numbers than your maximum upload speed, then you're looking at the bottleneck not being your ISP or your router or something. The bottleneck has now become your Pi.
Mm-hmm.
So you can back this up by going into your Pi, opening up top or whatever cool CPU type monitoring solution you've got, BPI top, whatever, and seeing how close to fully loaded one core it gets. And I mean, if you're looking at 80, 75 to 90% full load of a single core while you're doing that transfer, there's your bottleneck.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I was looking at. I was getting speed slower than my ISP provided me, and I could prove this by just doing a normal speed test in my network on a desktop, and I got bigger numbers. And then just kind of compared, contrasted, did it a few times, got an average. And those are the numbers that you see. It's an average of about 5 tests over a couple of different days at different times of the day. So yeah, I mean, they're fairly accurate.
That's pretty close.
But, yeah, good enough.
Yeah, there are other tools. If you really want to get precise and get nuts about this, you could probably use some other tools. One of them being iPerf. I don't know if you've heard about
Yes.
that one.
Mhm.
That's one that'll definitely dig down and tell you. And also, if you just wanted to see what what sort of bandwidth your network adapter on your Pi was, there's a few other tools for that sort of stuff too. One of them is like NetHogs. That's one way to do that. There's some other tools that you can install and see all those things. But all of those take CPU. Well, if you put it on your Pi, of course. But if you used iPerf and you just tested through your Pi, then that's probably, again, a really good representation of what you're getting while you're connected. So,
Right.
If you wanted to get like absolute accurate, that'd be the way to do it, probably.
Definitely. And I am way too lazy for absolute accurate. Scientific did not enter into the conversation.
You're probably not going to find enough difference for all the time you wasted in setting that up. So
Maybe.
so you're probably fine with your, somewhat unscientific method.
Yeah, and I'm I wasn't looking for absolute performance or anything like
Right.
that.
You just
Even
wanted
if
to
it
know
were
how's this going to work?
right, because if I could get somewhere in the range of 8 megabits to
Yeah.
16 megabits, if I can in there, that's great. Because most of the time,
Mhm.
all I do is stream music from my Plex server, so I don't need a ton of bandwidth.
Right.
But I need a little bit of bandwidth, and if WireGuard and Pies and everything else can provide that to me, that's really all I'm looking for.
Yeah. And so I'm just looking, like, for me, I'm just looking to stay kind of continually connected to my network. And I just need to upload my, pictures to my Nextcloud so that, they automatically upload and I don't lose those. And, stay connected to my stuff that's here. And if I really found that I was short on the bandwidth, I can always disconnect, I suppose, and then turn it back on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he goes on to say, currently, I'm running the WireGuard on the Raspberry 1B, first generation consumer model, with 512 mega RAM and just 2 USB ports. It even has the old S-Video connector.
Wow.
I know, that's awesome. As the WireGuard client on my work network is using PiVPN to set it up. So that's really cool. Again, he's just looking to make a connection, probably not really relying too much on all of the bandwidth needed. So I think it's a perfect solution.
Yeah, and okay, but he said something here that just blew my mind.
Yeah, it says, I'm loving it. It allows me to SSH into this Raspberry Pi so I can connect to Yatum, which is yet another .file manager, as my private Git server. And so once SSH'd into the Raspberry Pi, I can wake on LAN, my work intranet server, and access a web-based CRM on this server through the VPN tunnel without any issues. That first generation Raspberry Pi provides me with plenty of bandwidth for what I need to do. If you want to read more about this setup, I wrote about it in his blog, so I'll make sure to post that in the show notes. It says thanks for the great Linux content.
Yeah, and so if you're just pushing text files, yeah, you're not gonna need a whole lot of bandwidth
You
for
don't.
that, and just about anything will get that done for you. But I've yet to finish up my WireGuard testing on the Pi 2B Plus just yet, so I'll have some more numbers for us all soon. Question mark before the season's over. I'll put it that way. But he did say something in this email that just blew my mind. I have been configuring on all these Pis, on all the devices. I've been configuring WireGuard by hand.
Yeah, and it's not that bad, but
it's not. I actually thought it was fairly easy for a network type service and configuration files and all that.
Yeah, it's a lot like exchanging SSH keys and things like that, right?
But he said PiVPN.
Yeah.
Huh? I thought PiVPN was OpenVPN only, but this is not what he is saying. He's saying PiVPN can do WireGuard.
And it can, because I think it's a recent development from what I did in my teeny tiny little bit of research.
Whoa.
I think that's still there. I think they're both. It has both. It has capabilities for both.
That's amazing. But
And so,
OpenVPN compared to WireGuard is night and day. OpenVPN
for sure.
configuration and generation and everything else. I hated it. When PyVPN came out, I was like, oh, I love it. This is amazing. I'll always use OpenVPN for the rest of my life. And then WireGuard came along and I was like, well,
that's even
menu
easier.
configuration's not much harder than PyVPN. So I'll just use WireGuard. Plus you get a little bit of performance gain.
Yeah, quite a bit of performance gain, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. And now you're telling me that
you do both?
The easier than PyVPN WireGuard has now been made even easier by the same group.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. There's a lot of advances, though. I will say like there's some GUIs that look promising for WireGuard management, and I'm interested to see where that goes. I think a lot of them are web based. So if you were managing a bunch of people that were connected to a central hub or something like that, that would be the way to go there on that. And
yeah. Currently, for my own uses, I'll probably only use like 3 connections, maybe my phone, my laptop, and then maybe an extra device or something like that. But yeah, I could see if you're doing 50 people or something like that, give me some drop down boxes and some copy pasta, because I am not doing that by hand.
Nope. Yeah, no, that it has a lot of value. And so I'll go back to the other thing, the Raspberry 1B. It probably is the bottleneck on that connection, but think about the days of yore when you had a dial-up modem as like a backdoor into your network in case things went totally kaflooey, and you needed a way to get back in somehow to remote networks wherever they were. They certainly weren't fast, but they served a purpose, and I think this is the sort of thing that could do something similar. Get you back online kind of stuff. Pretty good. Anyway, thank you for the feedback. Really appreciate it. These are all great feedback items, and we love them. Keep them coming. So the next topic I wanted to bring up was the 15-minute bug initiative from KDE. This came about from a blog post by Nate Graham about a month ago, a little over a month ago, about a month ago though. And what it is there are bugs that can be easily encountered within the first 15 minutes of basic usage.
Oh, there are bugs
on a plasma system, right? We've all encountered them, but when you encounter those, that kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And certainly when you encounter them within the first 15 minutes. And so the idea is to reduce those so that new users don't encounter them. And the initial bug list was about 100-ish. And as of today, when I looked at it, we're down to about 79.
Oh, wow. That's less than when I saw it last.
I know.
It was like 85 or 84.
It's slow, steady progress. Maybe not every week, but there are things that are just getting ticked off the list. So I find that to be pretty awesome. I like this slow, steady approach to it because that leads to probably good stability of the fixes. Yeah. And so I've got a link to the initial bug list and Nate's blog post that I'll definitely add. So some basic criteria. These are things that affects the default setup. So if you've not tweaked a whole bunch of stuff in Plasma, your default setup, you'll encounter these. They're 100% reproducible. More than one person can obviously, make this happen.
Right.
There's something basic that doesn't work, like a button doesn't do anything when you click on it, that sort of thing. Or they could be something basic that looks visually broken, like a graphics glitch or some sort of color, contrast out of place. Those sorts of things are they fit the criteria. They could be something that causes Plasma or the full session to crash, which obviously those are catastrophic. We don't want to encounter those.
Those go at the front of the triage.
I'm sure
line.
They do. I'm sure they do. Or they could be something that requires a reboot or terminal commands to fix. And ultimately, if the bug has more than 5 duplicates, that's another thing that puts it into the criteria, right?
Well, lots of people complaining about it. Well, that's the squeaky
Yeah.
wheel thing, though, yeah?
But it is. If you encounter it, if you and everyone encounter it and report on it, it's something that probably should get fixed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So ultimately, the KDE developers and bug triagers are the ones that make the call if it's a 15-minute bug or not. And so I just wanted to really draw some attention here and applaud the effort. I think tackling these things that people notice out of the gate is a really good approach. It gives a good initial feeling behind using the desktop, and often that's what keeps you coming back, is if you have a positive experience. So I think this is something that more projects possibly should focus on, is the little things that hit you in the face first.
Well, maybe a lot of projects do kind of
They probably
look at this kind
do.
of stuff.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that the KDE team is making it a public affair. Counting them down.
Yes.
That it's just fun to watch.
It is.
These, like a bug list that started at 100 getting whittled down slowly and slowly. It's things like that, I think, that are outwardly public facing that can get people excited about mundane things like bug fixes. It didn't matter to me when the bug number went from 85 to 84. All that mattered to me was that the number got smaller.
Fixed. Yeah.
And that was just, that in and of itself was exciting because, these 100 bugs are getting taken care of. It's very visible. I think more projects need to do this kind of thing, but I applaud KDE for doing this kind of thing because it's just fun to watch, and it's real progress happening in real time, and everybody can talk about it. So it's really good stuff. I really, really enjoy watching the countdown get smaller.
Yeah, and I think Nate does a good job of promoting it. He does a good job of promoting KDE in general, and if you don't know, you visit his blog. He's got a weekly progress report.
Yes.
Where he's talking about all the bugs that they're hitting, and these 15-minute bugs go at the top of the list, and they are the ones that he's targeting first in his report. They deserve some praise for it, and they have something to be proud of.
Oh, yeah.
Leo, there are Linux bugs?
Oh, there's bugs. Dan, there's a lot of bugs, and Linux is just going to end up in the trash heap of history because there's so many bugs. And we've talked. We've seen articles, we've seen people get all up in arms about how terrible open source development is, and how it's not worth it, and how closed door development is obviously better. And specifically, Linux is a terribly jumbled mess when it comes to insecurity and the ability to fix bugs.
But isn't the fact that they're open have something to do with that? But
no, Dan, no.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you why.
All right, carry on.
You remember the bug, the policy kit bug?
Oh.
Well, it's Polkit now, right?
Yeah.
And that was last month. It allowed local users to give themselves root privilege. Like, yeah, great, sure, wasn't remote exploit or anything like that, but it was terribly egregious.
Yep.
And then you could escalate and get root privileges and change files and steal information. And what about that bug in Snapd? That also allowed a local user to gain root privileges. What about that bug, Dan?
Yeah, what about that bug? I saw someone post on a Telegram chat today about this because it's recent. And they're like, yeah, good job, Canonical, for releasing Snap before all the bugs were fixed. Wait a minute. Whoa.
I can't keep a straight face anymore. I can't. I
know. This. I thought that one would break you, honestly. What software that gets released does not have a bug?
No, listen, Dan, the world works. This is how it works, okay? When you submit software, you label it 1.0. And then you never update it again because it's perfect. Every good software in the world is only 1.0.
that never happens, Leo.
And then it's done.
Uh-huh.
Right? See, good companies like Adobe, they don't update their software. They just change the year. So now it's creative whatever 2022.
That's a good idea.
They didn't update it. They didn't fix any bugs because it's already perfect. They just revamped the year. See, that's how they do it. That's how real software development happens. You don't develop the software.
Okay.
Well,
I get you.
That's the answer.
Well, Windows 10 was the last Windows ever.
Well, of course. Well, no, Windows 1. If you look real close, when it says Windows 10, it doesn't actually say 10. Zoom in.
Yeah.
And there's a dot.
There's a dot
1.0. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense now.
That's definitely what it is. All right, back in character. So, and who can leave out the bug in Samba? With a CVS score, or severity rating for those that don't get CVS, is of a 9.9 out of 10. It's pretty much as big as you get.
That's as high as it goes.
Yep, that when you're using the fruit module.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you.
This is a module that allows you to interface with the Apple filing protocol, right? The AFP.
AFP. Mm-hmm.
This bug allows remote code execution with root privileges.
Well, what could go wrong with that? That's remote.
Yeah, you don't even need a login. This is worse than the other two. You
Oh,
don't
for
even
sure.
need a login. If this machine is facing any computer, whether that's on the internet or a local internet, local intranet,
Right.
you're able to hit it and immediately grant yourself root privileges, and then use that to then do remote code execution.
Wow.
Anything. Write files, play around with cron, do weird stuff. There are bugs in everything.
There are bugs in everything.
Okay, so for real though, what's more important to note though, I think, about these bugs? Those bugs are not great. None of them.
No, none of them are.
Right? I mean, the policy kit one is actually pretty bad.
That was bad?
Scored 7.8. CVSS score. The Snapd one is also 7.8. And yeah, like if you leave your laptop open on a desk and you walk away from it logged in, then yes, someone could come behind you and use those two bugs have you not updated to gain deeper access to your system and install stuff or whatever. Those are pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
The Samba one is even worse because you don't need to be logged in. You just have to have that Samba port exposed and have the AFP module enabled.
Yep, just got to be there.
And remote code I can run stuff on your computer from across the hall or across the entire world if it's accessible over the internet. But what's important to note, more than the Polkit bug, is according to Google's Project Zero, Linux is getting its security patches faster than any other software ever. So this includes Windows. Their average is 83 days to fix a bug. And that makes a lot of sense because a lot of those bugs get dealt with in Patch Tuesdays, and if they miss the Tuesday, then they got to wait another 30 days. So
if they're really bad, they'll do an out of band thing, but then it's a really big deal, right? Yeah.
Right. Those are those 9s, 9.5s. Windows will get those done.
Yeah.
Android's average 72 days.
Oof.
Not too bad. I mean,
it's not bad, but I wonder about the devices out there if they're actually getting those updates or not.
Dan, you know they're not. Quit playing around. You know those devices that you bought a year and a half ago aren't getting updates anymore. Please.
There's people running Android 7 out there and stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I throw shade, but it is getting better.
It is better.
A lot of the newer devices are getting much longer support cycles and things like
that. Which is great. Thank you for that.
Definitely. But that mirrors pretty closely iOS's average, which is about 70 days.
Okay. That's not too bad.
Then Firefox comes in at 37 days. You know I had to talk about Firefox.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Chrome, 30 days.
Well,
not bad. And of course, the list goes on and on and on. Plenty of others. But you get the idea. The average of all developers out there that are fixing bugs is about 52 days.
Okay.
Now, Linux, 25 days.
Nice.
When security researchers, Qualys specifically, because they're the ones that found the Samba bug and they found the Polkit bug. Well, okay, I've got more about that in a minute. But once those are disclosed to the people that could make the change, an average of 25 days before you see a fix. Some a little shorter, some a little longer, but
Right.
the average is 25, and it's the best in the industry.
Nice.
So I think all of that hubbub about open source is terrible and Linux is terrible and it's going to be it's bad for security, and I mean, number one, that it's not the truth, because we're running Linux everywhere. It may not be dominant on the desktop, but it's dominant everywhere else.
It is very dominant, that's for sure. It runs on a lot of devices.
Mm-hmm. So, 25 days. That's beats
really
the
quick.
Industry average. Now, Leo, you say, how can you talk about the Polkit bug, which took 9 years to truly discover and fix, and the 25-day fix average in the same segment? Well, you beautiful listener, you. Once Qualys had disclosed the bug, it was fixed in the normal time frame. This one was weird. The Polkit one was actually pretty weird in that I couldn't find where there was any formal disclosure of the bug. But there was disclosure. So, but again, remember, 9 years ago. So once Qualys had found the bug again, the real process started, and we actually got into that 25-day average, which is actually kind of nice.
So I think part of that is the disclosure process, right?
Well, right. I think posting what you found on a blog, you run the risk of it being buried under all of the other tech news and everything else. Or if your blog is just not connected to enough people, it's not going to get the eyes that it deserves, as it deserved it 9 years ago. But unfortunately, it just didn't get you go there now.
It didn't get to the right security professionals in order to be a thing that goes out wide.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go there now, you can see a bunch of folks now adding comments to that post saying, "Ha, you called it 9 years ago. There it is.
Right.
And now we're dealing with it now." But yeah, I think that was really it, and I think the Project Zero team from Google agrees, because they said, "We suspect that this trend may be due to the fact that responsible disclosure policies have become the de facto standard in the industry, and vendors are more equipped to react rapidly to reports with differing deadlines. We also suspect that vendors have learned best practices from each other, and there has been increasing transparency in the industry." So over these past 10 years, things have gotten better and better and better.
For sure.
We all have an idea of how these bugs can be disclosed, and once they are disclosed, those are the averages.
Yeah.
And Linux is top of the heap.
25 days is nice. That's good. Those are good numbers.
Yep. And it's something I think is extremely important to get that quickness. I mean, you're in a situation where almost everybody, in the Polkit situation, everybody just about was affected by this. I mean, companies and people work directly with the affected softwares to show how these bugs can be leveraged, get patches written and ultimately distributed, so folks stay safe. And that says a lot that Linux is the fastest.
That's awesome. Housekeeping. The Linux and open source community has some fantastic resources, and we want to make sure to highlight that. In our showcase for this episode, we want to draw your attention to the awesome open source YouTube channel by Brian McGonigal. And a lot of us, like Leo and I, we do a lot of self-hosting of things. And so Brian runs you through a lot of those. He does some other desktop things too, a little bit, but a lot of the projects he works on are actually Docker. And so you can pick up some Docker skills here. And even if some of these projects might not be interesting to you, I think just learning about how things are put together and running through some of these Docker things is good learning experience, if nothing else. But a lot of those things that he's talking about hosting, they're really interesting, I think. I don't know. Have you had a chance to check this out, Leo?
Well, I'm a super nerd, so obviously they're interesting to me.
Mhm.
We talked about, maybe it was in the last topic episode, we were talking about pfSense
Yep.
and Matthias and how he was setting it all up.
Yep.
This is one of the videos that he's got
He's got
on
one of
his
the videos,
channel.
yeah.
Installation and initial configuration of pfSense. He actually did a video of something that I had talked about on Mintcast months ago. What's better? Zip, TarGZ, or 7-zip.
Yeah.
So he'll go into the compression utilities, show you the information that's going in, the information that's coming out, the compression ratios, and all of that. That was kind of a fun time. I probably should have made a video about it. And Jellyfin, I know I go Plex myself, but if you're more of a open source aficionado when it comes to how you want to get your movies presented to you, then Jellyfin.
Yeah, Jellyfin's good.
That's good stuff. So these videos are pretty good. I mean, especially if you are more of the nerdy persuasion. And one of my favorite things, though, Grafana.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a video about Grafana, which is probably the prettiest dashboard and most customizable dashboard out there.
Interestingly enough, he did a speed test one. That used Grafana. Oh, that was pretty cool. I actually set that up at work. It was cool.
I love blinky lights, and Grafana is the prettiest of the blinkies, I think.
Yep, absolutely. So he's actually got a little gathering, if you will, a little community built up, and so it's great stuff. I love to see these things. They're all open source projects, so nice to follow along and see the different things that are possible with open source. Feel free to send your feedback and emails to contact@linuxuserspace.show. We love our patrons. Thanks to everyone for your contributions. We truly appreciate your support. If you want to join the other patrons, please head on over to patreon.com/linuxuserspace. And you can be like Josh and Bruno right here in the recording studio with us.
Yeah, hearing all the mistakes, stuff out of order. Yeah.
We might shuffle things around a little bit, but yeah. We have our Matrix room, linuxuserspace.show/matrix. You can hop on over there, have some fun. We also have our Telegram group. Please join us at linuxuserspace.show/telegram. And if those aren't enough chat platforms, we have our Discord server, linuxuserspace.show/discord.
I've spent a lot of time getting all of the logos of all of the Linux distros in as like a custom emojis. Yeah. That's pretty cool, actually. I won't say I enjoy doing all of that, but I enjoy the product.
You must have enjoyed it because you did a bunch.
Yeah. I did like 20 the first night. But yeah, I still got to do a few more because it turns out there's like Linux distros for days. Apparently they just don't run out. They yeah. I hear that's a thing in the Linux community. They just keep coming up with new distros.
Yeah, they kind of do
to mess around with. Yeah, I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one goes away and 10 more pop up.
Yeah.
Anyway, please follow us on Twitter. At Linux User Space to get all the announcements for the show and highlights for things that impact your user space. You can watch our faces on YouTube. linuxuserspace.show/YouTube. We also have our subreddit, linuxuserspace.show/Reddit.
Yeah, pretty much all of the articles we talk about in these topic shows, yeah, they get posted over there. So if you want to have a conversation about that, that's a good place to do it. And not get lost in a Telegram or Discord conversation.
I think it's a better flow as far as keeping track of all the articles, because there's a bunch of articles we actually don't bring up on the show, believe it or not.
Yep. And yeah, it's more akin to a forum. So yeah, I do kind of like that because you can go hours between responses and yet still have the conversation flow and make sense.
Yeah. We've also caught up with the open source Fediverse times and joined Mastodon. And you can follow us at Linux User Space at mastodon.social.
I need to know what the best Twitter mirror to Mastodon thing, API, whatever thing is.
Yeah.
So if you know,
I did find one that was written in Rust. So maybe? I don't know.
Okay.
We
We'll
may
try
have
that
to
one
try
out.
around. But if anybody knows of a really good one, please let us know.
Please let me know.
Yeah.
I would like to use that one.
Absolutely.
But the rest one sounds good too. Okay.
Yeah, I'll dig that back up and share it. But
we'll have them duke it out.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Lastly, don't forget to rate this podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast application, and like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. You can always get more information on our website, linuxuserspace.show.
You know what I haven't done in a long time is open the show or open this segment with the original catchphrase. This is App Focus, where we focus on the app.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
And I don't know when I got away from that.
I don't know.
It was never
either.
really written down, and it was. I think when we talked about it originally, it was more of a joke. I said it as a joke, and then Joe was like, "Oh, that does kind of sound good," and I was like, "Oh, okay,
catchy.
Cool. I'll keep going on with it." And then I stopped sometime, but we've been doing this channel migration. And I've been working on re-rendering some of the videos so we can take them off of the old channel, close down that old channel, and bring up the new channel and have all the content in one space. But yeah, I listened to the very first episode to get some timestamps, and I heard that. And I was like, wait a minute, that's right. This is App Focus, where we focus on the app.
Yeah, we do.
Why have we not been focusing on? Well, we have, but
we totally have. Cool.
Anyway,
well, that's good.
A little blast from the past.
I should write that in the show doc so that we don't forget.
Well, no, and then I'll forget, and then I'll remember like 8 episodes from now, and then we'll have the same exact conversation then. It could be fun.
Well, sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Maybe.
So, Leo, what are we focusing on?
We're focusing on Nextcloud.
Oh, we
that
are.
Wink, wink about an hour ago. Finally, we make it, and we see what we're talking about. So Nextcloud. We just got done talking about awesome open source YouTube channel, and that is kind of in the vein of what we're dealing with, where Nextcloud can be deployed in Docker or Snap, or you can do it by hand or whatever you want. But Nextcloud is a Google Drive or OneDrive kind of self-hosted alternative.
Yep.
It does like all the things you can do. I mean, full on like word processing inside of it. I personally use
collaboratively.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The collaborative part. I forget about that. Sometimes I use
that's pretty important.
Alone. Yeah, but it is collaborative. It very much can be when you share stuff between accounts on your Nextcloud instance. But why would you want something like this? Because honestly, I think both Dan and I can tell you that at least in the very beginning, it is a little bit of work to get it set up.
It is. You have to do some tweaking.
But you would want something like this so that you can control your own data, so that you can leave the big companies behind, so that you don't have to pay monthly for 100 megabytes or gigabytes of storage access, or 1 terabyte or whatever it is.
Right.
Or because you're like me and you're a tinkerer and just want to learn more about how Linux and Docker and Snap and all these different kinds of services and things like that work.
Yeah, maybe all the above even. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I say I'm the last one, but I'm kind of all the above, right? Like, so the more storage for less. Yeah, I got 4 terabytes of storage to deal with on that. And all I pay for is electricity and the knowledge that I banged my head against the desk enough to make it work.
Yep, absolutely.
So Dan, how do you use this? I mean, obviously we've both been using Nextcloud for a very,
We
very
do.
long time. It's kind of surprising that we haven't talked about it up to this point. But so how do you actually use Nextcloud in your day to day?
All right, so I will say there is a cornucopia of plugins and add-ons that you can install, and
A lot.
there are a lot. Literally, it feels like everything. And so one of the ones that I have installed that I actually don't use too much, I get to enjoy it though, is a recipe collection tool that my wife uses.
Oh, there's an actual like plugin for that.
Yes, there is.
Whoa.
And so it does like recipe collections, and so she can pull them up, and they look nice. They're well formatted and stuff, and so it keeps track of all of those. And yeah, it's just a place to store all of that stuff in one location, rather than a recipe book. It's digital.
I've just been doing this like in Markdown like a dunce.
Well, you
So
can do that
there's
too.
like an entire plugin for this.
There's a plugin for it. It's pretty
Oh,
great.
wow.
And so that's pretty cool. And so she uses that.
Wow.
I do use the notes thing from time to time. Probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yep, I use that. I definitely sync all of my contacts that are on my phone daily. And I also sync my pictures and videos that I have on my phone, daily too.
Mm-hmm.
So not just like a lot of like Google, if you have an Android phone, will do that for you, obviously, or you can use iCloud if you have an iPhone. But I feel like this is another place to put that stuff that I don't have to worry about losing.
Right. Well, I mean, so what I ended up doing was running pretty quickly into the free iCloud limit of 15 or 20 or I don't know, whatever it is,
it's not
gigs.
much. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I ended up using Nextcloud for was just it seems to me like just photos alone,
Mm-hmm.
I can do about 10 gigs of photos in a year.
Yeah.
So at the end of
the
the year, I just remove them off my phone and have them in Nextcloud, which is backed up. So yeah, so I have all those photos. They are searchable. I can get to them on my phone or any other device, and it's very easy to do. But I don't have to. I don't have to deal with worrying about how much storage I have in iCloud anymore. So that is a huge benefit to running something like this.
Yeah, I don't think about it. It just syncs them automatically, and it just does its thing. So,
yep.
Never lose either of those two things for sure. Because I have them in multiple locations, which you're supposed to do. And so that's where I use it on a daily right there. And I don't even think about using it on a daily. I mean, because it's so seamless.
Yeah. You had to think about thinking about using it on the daily.
Yeah, I kind of did.
Something like that.
And so, I don't know. There's some other nifty little things. It's got, a little weather widget that shows up when you first log in. That's kind of nice.
Dan, you got to tell me how to fix this. It keeps telling me, number one, it's in Celsius, and I can't figure out how to change it. Not that I can't convert it, but I have to convert it because I'm like, what is 7 Celsius, man?
Well, I think I might have did that in my brain, but I'm sure there's a way to change that.
Bruno says cold.
Cold. It is. Well, that's warm here.
I think I can get that, right? Like, I think generally I know 7 Celsius is, 20 is getting good, getting okay, but I can't, I don't do the conversion as quickly as you do, Dan. So if I see 7 Celsius, I'm like, maybe I think I need a jacket. I think.
That's above freezing, so I know that's not bad, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, it is in Celsius, and so I'm just fine with that.
So I can't figure out how to do it. I swear I've changed my location in the settings. I have tried to go into the settings of the weather widget, and it just doesn't seem to me like there's anything. But I also, for some reason, anytime I create new text documents in Nextcloud, by default I think it's text, but there's an option for you to be able to change that to Markdown, so it'll immediately go into Markdown mode, which is super cool.
Well, there is another plugin for that too, Leo.
Well, before we get to that, I just want to just remember how terrible I was for a little while. I found that option. I was like, well, I'm not going to change it right now because I do have some text files and maybe, I don't know if it's going to mess with anything. But then like the next day I was like, I should have just done it. Let me go back in and do it. I spent an hour looking, Dan. I couldn't find it. I don't know where I went to find it.
Well, there's a lot of them to thumb through. So I can see how you could lose it.
Yeah, and then sometime in the past 6 months, I found it again and turned it on, and I was like, well, finally, I found it. I'll never touch that again.
It's the notes. It's called notes.
Well, right. No. Okay, so like when you go into, like you just open up a folder, go in the folder and click plus.
Oh, yeah.
And then click a text file.
Mm-hmm.
That is by default TXT.
Correct.
But you can change it.
You can change it.
To MD, but it's not through the notes thing.
It is not through the notes thing.
It was some setting somewhere that I found and then lost and then found again and then changed it. And then now I hope that I never have to find it again because I won't be able to. It's somewhere. I don't know.
So another cool little tidbit that I did is I installed the Breeze Dark theme.
What?
Yeah, so I did. And so it's Breeze Dark. It matches my desktop. It's Breeze.
Are you kidding?
No,
what?
Isn't that fantastic?
I didn't... Wait, there are themes?
Yeah, there's not many. But Breeze Dark is one of them that I did install, and I absolutely love it. I do.
I feel like that meme. Everybody's talking about all the cool stuff they're getting. You guys get cool stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
And so I do. Whoops. I love that one. I don't have a lot installed, honestly. One of the things I did try that seemed to kind of overload my system because it's a little underpowered was...
you told me about this one.
Was the newsreader. And that's how I landed on the newsreader that I landed on. But it really consumed a lot of juice trying to suck down the feeds.
Yeah, I think my CPU might be able to handle it. But, I mean, the fact that whatever you're using right now is struggling, I don't want to put my NAS under that kind of pressure, man. It's like not a lot of CPU going on with Nextcloud in the first place. I don't want to crank that up to 20% for no reason. So I'll stick with Fresh RSS, which, by the way, was last app focus.
It was. So that's how I landed on that, though, is by going through a couple of different iterations of things. So that's about all I do on mine. I got some documents, obviously, that I will shuffle around to different places and whatnot, and things of that sort. It's kind of nice to be able to access those from multiple machines, and I do sync them to my desktop. So I sync some of that stuff to my desktop, and obviously I'm syncing my phone to the Nextcloud. So I have all of my pictures wherever I need them, and that's kind of nice.
For me, just like Dan, I've got my phone pictures and videos backed up to Nextcloud. All the other videos and images and other bits I use to produce the show, that's I think the thing I use it. Well, okay.
Mm-hmm.
More data is used in Nextcloud for the show than anything else. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I could buy that.
Well, yeah, 18 gig files, Dan. They get large.
I have some large videos that I send Leo's way.
I think what I'm going to do now is for like archival purposes, I'm going to like re-render them down.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
Compress them a little bit.
They are raw. They are not compressed.
Yeah. So, but it's super easy to just grab these files, throw them in Nextcloud, and then have them on more than one location. So it's amazing for that kind of thing. And of course, all the files that I want to actually keep safe, like. If I were to lose some of the source files of the show, it's not that big a deal because I have some of those files, the important ones. I have those backed up in a couple of different places.
Right.
But also there's some documents that I have that I just absolutely don't ever want to lose. It has become a full-on Google Drive replacement. Now the limit is the drives that I have in the box now. And yes, it's more effort. Yes, you have to deal with, being able to access that outside of your own network, which requires a little bit of skill in some other areas, but I think it's worth it. So in conjunction with WireGuard, I can get anything anywhere, everywhere, all the time. Now, my installation is done through Snap on Ubuntu directly on my NAS. Dan, how do you do yours?
So I have a server-ish machine here. It's older, but it's running Ubuntu server.
Mm-hmm.
And I have LexD. So I'm running an LXC container, but I am using the Snap inside of that.
Oh, very nice. So isolated away, even more isolated away than it already is isolated away.
Yeah. It's
Cool.
probably not a ton of isolation, but more. But it keeps the system itself containerized, and so it's easy to move because you can just copy the whole container and move it over to somewhere else, and you're back in business.
That's really cool. And I thought the Snap installation was dead easy.
Oh yeah.
Well, okay. I
Yeah, it was
take
pretty
that
easy.
back. I wrote a blog post specifically over how I set mine up because there were a couple of different commands that were hard to find. Like the external storage
the connection
thing that you
stuff.
have to do. Yeah, that was a little hard to find, but I mean, I wrote it all down. So if you do want to try it out on data that you don't care about or something like that, there is a write-up. And Dan, you had a video of something as well.
I did. Jay LaCroix had a video, and
That's right.
And his installation is not the Snap. It's actually installing it, with all of the packaging. So he installs Apache, he installs, MySQL or MariaDB probably. And
the hard way, huh?
Right. And so and PHP, and put all the bits together, and it actually wasn't that hard. Like, it was, I don't know, it's an hour video, and
well,
I guess relatively straightforward.
What really attracted me to Docker and Snap was it's way less brittle. If any of those links in those chains change, then things can break, and the downside to that is, well, it's broken until you fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And with Docker, a lot of times you can just throw away the container and pull down new containers, right. And as long as the data and the database and everything else is still okay, you plug it all up, everything works. And same with the Snap.
Yeah. It could be a little more management probably if you had to, do a database restore. Yeah. All of those things. You'd want to be a little more familiar with that.
I went with the Snap, though, because I prefer how it handles data.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, and if you watch Jay LaCroix's video, you'll realize that Nextcloud uses a database to store all your data.
Right.
The Snap stores all the data in a typical Linux directory structure that you set up prior to installation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's like a flat file sort of approach, if you will. Yeah.
And that's super advantageous for me because of the way that I do my backups. I don't back up a database. I back up each individual file.
Right.
And the cool thing about that is that if my main NAS disk were to fail, I would be able to take my external disk, plug it into any Linux-based computer, and pull files off.
Mm-hmm.
Just straight rip them out of there. These are super important. I need these right now, because the NAS is down right now. So, I can access them directly off of the disk, or I can copy them over to somewhere else.
I can see some benefit there, yeah.
Yeah, that's extremely advantageous to me. Because the data lives on, and I don't have to use external tools, or I don't have to create a database and mount this database inside of it, or inside of whatever, so I can access the stuff and then pull out individual. No, it's just the files, and I really, really appreciate that that's the route that Snap went to handle the data within Nextcloud. So anyway, reaching into a database, just maddening if it's new to you.
Well, that's why there's database administrators that manage that stuff, and
literally a person trained to do that kind of thing.
That's all they do is they live in that all day long.
Yep, and I poke at them every now and then, but I'm not confident that if I need to get a file out of a database, I could do it in 5 minutes. Just no. But I know that I could unmount my drive, unplug it, plug it into a new machine, pull data off in just a couple of minutes. So that, I think, is for my use case anyway, the Snap is the easiest way to get it installed, the easiest way to manage it, the easiest to deal with if there's a failure of some kind. I like it, and I'll do it again.
Yep.
So, Dan, obviously you're going to use it.
Oh, hey, if I want my wife to keep cooking the recipes that she has in there, I'm absolutely going to keep this thing running.
Yeah, definitely. And same here. Until the wheels fall off, man. It got me off of Google. It allowed me to kind of be the steward of my own data. I get to play. I get to play real big sysadmin out here, and yeah, I'm gonna just keep using it until the wheels fall off. It's a fantastic product, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. It's great.
I'm amazed with it. It's pretty fascinating. I love it. So next time, we are going to wrap up our journey with Slackware. Slackware, the oldest distribution actively maintained. I don't know, if you haven't started, it's not too late. I'll say use the live Slack. It's linked in the release notes that Patrick Volkerding posted. So I would say it's semi-official. Maybe not actually official, but semi-official. Yeah, pull that down, and it's Plasma, and it gets you off and running anyway.
You know, people talk about Slackware all the time, just in generalities, I think, but I don't think anybody ever puts it into context where Slackware sits on the difficulty meter between Debian and Gentoo, and it is absolutely 100% closer to Gentoo than it is to Debian as far as difficulty goes. I mean, if there's software outside of Slackware that you need, you're going to have to, in some way, shape, or form, going to have to compile it for yourself.
Probably, unless you can download a full-blown binary that's zipped up or something.
Discord. Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, Discord.
Right?
You can run Discord that way. You can.
Yeah, you can.
Well, Telegram. Telegram's another one, right?
Yep.
Although Telegram's available, but Telegram's one you can download that way.
Right, exactly. So, yes, but it's definitely on the... Like, Debian, I would say, is way less hands-on than Arch or Gentoo or something like that. And
probably, yeah.
You need to put Slackware in the same grouping as, I think, at least Arch, but I would really argue more Gentoo than anything else, because
I'll buy that.
It's all stock. And if you want something outside,
difficulty meter ramped up a little bit. No doubt about it. Definitely a little on the harder side.
I did this to us, Dan. I did it.
You did. But I'm here. I'm following along, and I'm making the best of it. And I'm having a good time. I'm learning some stuff. I did have to resort to, installing a couple of things, from the binary downloads, if you will, like Discord.
Hey.
But it's working. So I'm happy about that, right? And, well, hey, a lot of people download their browsers that way anyway. So.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you could do Firefox that way too, huh?
Yeah. I mean, that totally works, right? Thank you, everybody, for listening and for your support. Where can we find you, Leo?
You can find me at Leo Chavez on Twitter for now.
And you can find me at KC2BEZ on Twitter and most everything else.
Yay.
Join us in 2 weeks when we return to the Linux user space. My desk isn't bad. That's pretty sturdy. It's not very big, though. It's not very deep. So, I mean, that might be why it's more sturdy, too. But
well, see, then you need the desk clamp monitor stands with the VESA mounting.
I absolutely do. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a huge upgrade. The amount of desk space you get when your monitor's not sitting on your desk is crazy.
Yes, I know. Yeah, that monitor stands are awesome.
Oh, and the gas ones, the ones with the little hydraulic or whatever inside of it, it's amazing. You just pick them up, move them over, swap them around, flip them upside, do whatever you want to them.
Yeah,
they'll take all kinds of punishment.
The bolted down's good, or if you get the clamps that go all the way through, though, like if you drill a hole and then clamp it down that way, those are good. I've had some of those that are pretty solid.
I mean, even on this flimsy old table,
Right.
as long as you're not trying to mount like a 12-pound monitor, it's been great. It's been absolutely great.
All right, Leo. I made it about 75% through before I figured out I didn't turn on my light.
Oh, hey, you know what? I think there's a brightness slider in Caden Live, so we're
All right,
probably
so
going to be okay.
I don't know what that's going to look like, but I don't think it'll be terrible.
Did you turn it on after the fact?
Nope, never turned it on.